Well, I started in kindergarten. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio. Um, I took lessons, piano lessons, down the block from my house, our house. Her name was Elmira Snodgrass, and she would give me these little stickers, when I had a good lesson. And I enjoyed playing piano. In fact, I kept playing, but at some point in elementary school, around the fifth grade, my brother was already playing trumpet, and they asked, "Do you want to play an instrument?" And I looked around and I saw a clarinet, and I said, I think I'd like to try that. And little did I know at the time that if you play one woodwind instrument, you've got to play a lot of them. After elementary school, I started tenor saxophone in junior high school. And then in high school, I got a scholarship on bassoon at the Cleveland Institute of Music, and actually ended up playing in the Cleveland Philharmonic Orchestra for a little over a year. And at that point, this is 1950, the Korean War was on, and there was no way of getting out of the draft. So I went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and took an audition on the bassoon. And it's funny, the warrant officer there said, "Don't worry. Once you get here, you're not going to go anyplace. You won't go to Korea, blah, blah, blah." By the time I got there, he was already gone. And I think they sent him to Panama, or he messed up somehow. But I was only there a few months, and anybody that had more than 6 months to do was shipped overseas. And I thought, oh, here I go. I'm going to go to Korea. And fortunately for me, I went to Europe instead. And my first shock was any musician that was going to Europe was sent to just a couple of central locations, and then they shipped you out to bands. And they shipped me to Dachau. And, to be in a place where, the gas chambers and the gallows and, just a place where they were doing nothing but killing people was kind of mind-blowing, really was. And I finally left there to go to a little place called Gippingen. And I wasn't there too long. The warrant officer didn't particularly like me. And I thought I saw one of the guys in the band putting my instrument on the bus to go play a job. And when we got there, I didn't have an instrument, and it wasn't mine. So the warrant officer got very displeased, and he actually shipped me out to an artillery outfit in Ulm. And eventually, after a little while there, I went up to Stuttgart, and I took an audition for the 7th Army Symphony, and eventually got in the band, and enjoyed Europe very much. I thought it was, an overall great experience for me musically and culturally. And when I got back, I just went to back to Ohio and went to a conservatory and enjoyed playing in Cleveland for the most part. But my brother at the same time, who had gone in the service earlier, and he actually, and I didn't even know they had a base in Trieste, Italy. He ended up in Trieste, Italy with Don Preston, which I thought was very interesting, because when my brother and I came out here in 1960, Don Preston was one of the first guys that we bumped into, doing his usual avant-garde, outside stuff. And that's where we met Frank, who was also interested in the same kind of thing. And I remember Don having a light show and with different colors, and whenever your color came up, and then you could play, and then whatever. But we did a lot of experimentation, and obviously Frank loved it, and so did we. And when I was while I was in the Army, eventually I took up flute. So I went through most of the woodwinds for the most part, and then decided again in late 1959. My brother graduated from the Mannes School of Music in New York, so we decided to come out here. And then in late '65, met Frank again, doing stuff. And at one point, we went to an audition, and it was from one of the local TV shows here. And Frank was demonstrating by blowing through the handlebars, you could get harmonics. And we were loosening the spokes on the wheel so that when you played them with a drumstick, you could get different tones. Anyhow, played music. Anyhow, I remember at the audition that guys were going out into the hall and getting people to come in to watch us because besides, I'm sure, looking a little weird, we also were doing some pretty far out things musically. And a little while after that, Frank was living in Laurel Canyon and went up and spent a day taking an audition, playing all my instruments to be with the band.